Determination. Chapter 7. It's the end of the world as we know it. The sounds of fire trucks and patrol cars echoed through the streets. The sky was dark, the air was stale, and many strong cold gusts of wind bore mass amounts of dust and debris. I didn't envy the reporter job, as she seemed mere moments from being blown off her feet, but to her credit, she persevered. Behind her, there was a black shadow of an old man. I'm here reporting of what's been dubbed the nationwide ghost disaster state, which local representatives claim is now in effect as of last night. This string of unexplained and potentially unexplainable deaths have been plaguing the city presently shows no signs of letting up. Oh dear. Suspicious and sudden demise homicide with unknown motives and reports of paranormal visitation are all increasing at an alarming rate. The police forces in East Prefecture are still weighing their options for dealing with this issue, and a few have made the official statement thus far frustratingly. The old man standing in the back room began acting strangely, jumping in place and making various other aimless motions. Metropolitan Police, meanwhile, have suggested that all local travels to safe locations in groups of 3 or more as soon as possible, remaining indoors until further notice. The sudden devastating appearance of the black pillars throughout Japan last night led to the MLIT declare the state of emergency, setting up disaster shelters and lookouts. Officials word from local bureaus on how these pillars are affecting traffic, the stats, the damage to the rivers, as well as countermeasures being taken can be seen here. Experts have analyzed the pillars' composition and concluded that they're made of previously unknown material they've tossed around the name like spirit matter and entity wall. Due to their rapid growth and complete inability of even seismographs to predict where they may spawn, the number of casualties is quite high and global tensions are even higher. Everything up to and including industrial cutters and blades have been employed in an attempt to cut through these objects with absolutely no effect. Ministry of Defense is using JSDF data to explore the strong possibility that these pillars are related in some way to the aerial sphere that hovered in our sky only days ago. I have here a list of newly appointed relief shelters, so if you live in one of the designated evacuation areas, please take note of the information on your screen. This information is available on our website and through our mobile app. But do note that any gymnasium and schools shown in white are full, so you'll need to look elsewhere. I strongly recommend that you proceed to the nearest open facility as soon as possible. But if these things can sprout up anywhere without warning and give you no time to escape, evacuation is meaningless. That's not a damn thing anybody can do to stay safe. Whether you die or not is just dumb luck. When the hell is the police going to get off their asses and making a statement? Are they scared of public outcry? Are they hiding something? The middle-aged announcer was yelling at the top of his lungs, and in an absolute frenzy, he kicked his studio desk to the ground. A black shadow of a woman could be seen behind him. Class rep. Shinozaki. Ayumi. Huh? Oh. Thank you for bringing us back to life. You mean I did it? But a whole lot more people have died now. Huh? The room grew dark, and catch of 4 figures who stood before me slowly melted into blackness, becoming indistinctive silhouettes. Even Mochida, Nakashima, and Kishinuma had died. So many people gone. What's this? Even we haven't actually been revived, huh? What was it you were trying to do again, Ayumi? No. I screamed and looked up. It was just a dream. I was at home watching TV. I scrunched myself up again, putting my face to my knees. Bring them back, bring them back. I was like a broken record with that. But it was a doomed idea from the start. Everything I've done had been pointless, so what do I do now? The thought I could revive them, I really did. I mean, if I can come back from Yoshie's house despite these injuries and losing my sister, then anybody should be able to come back. I raised my face from my knees, eyes red and burning. Then, as if I hadn't already had enough tragedy in my life, I heard a loud crash just outside my house. It was unmistakably a car wreck, and a rather severe one at that. It's your mom. The car's alarm was going off, but I was trying my best to ignore it. It didn't need this right now, so I simply wasn't going to bother with it. Sis, what do I do, sis? Sis. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if it's mostly just a reading chapter or what. Up next, we've learned that the CEO of PL Promotion Company Inc. is among those who've gone missing. The car alarm outside was still going off, and it was getting harder and harder to ignore by the second. What? Whoever was ringing the doorbell was really, really persistent. The regular sound brought me back to reality. I crept over to the people and I looked through. To see who would visit me at this hour. On the other side of the door stood a man I didn't recognize. He had short hair and he was pressing the chime frantically, as if his life depended on it. Who is that? I was kind of creeped out. I really shouldn't open the door. I moved away from the peephole. Ding ding! Ding 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 ding! The person's ringing continued for a bit, but then finally, thankfully, came to an abrupt halt. I slowly crept back to the peephole and took another look. The man was still there. He was just pacing back and forth in place, in front of the house that, for all he knew, had no occupants. After another short while, he approached the door again and immediately put his eye up to the outside of the peephole. If I moved now, he'd totally know I'm here. The man moved his head away, but quickly replaced it with his finger, which he swirled around and around inside the tight space of trying to reach my eye or poke it out. Then he stepped away from the door. I could have taken this opportunity to slowly move away from the peephole, but I was oddly transfixed. Iris, stop. I know, you heard the thing. I know, I'll go get the mail in a bit. Thank God, now all he has to do is leave. Of course, the second I thought that, he came back to the door yet again. And yet again, he skipped the doorbell and went straight for the peephole. What does he want? Why isn't he saying anything? This is really creeping me out. Well, fine then, I'll just open the door and give him a piece of my mind. I grabbed the doorknob and was a moment from following through with that plan when suddenly... Ayumi. Sachiko? Don't open it. What? He's dead. Sachiko. I slowly turned to look at her. The Nirvana is the world of the dead, and the world is coming here. Then there was an oddly familiar sound, another car accident, again right outside my door. This time I looked outside through the people and saw the man from earlier, sandwiched between a car and the wall of one of the houses across the street. He was absolutely mangled. But after only a few moments, the man's corpse disappeared, leaving nothing but a shadow in its place of the wall and ground like a black stain. What is this? What's happening to the world? Not that I even really had to ask. Is this from breaking down the walls of the Nirvana? I wasn't just asking myself, I was asking Sachiko, whose presence still remained just behind my back. But she just looked up at me with sad eyes. That person just now was one of the deceased, and if he turned into a black stain, then... No, it couldn't be. I pulled my smartphone from my pocket. I forced myself to remain calm enough to access the photo, but then just stopped and stared. God, no. The photo displayed on my phone, which was now on the floor. No longer just my friends from before with blackout faces, but Machida, Nakashima, Kishinuma as well. I pounded the floor with both hands and shuddered violently. Thou shalt repent. The end of the world is nigh. God shall not forgive those who art unclean and indiscreet. Some cultist group was speaking on TV. I guess the news must have ended at some point when I wasn't paying attention. The end of the world, huh? This time I was just plain talking to myself. Oh goody, it's her. That's right, the end. Who'd ever thought the last remaining Yagura could have enough suicide bomber determination to dream up something like this? Magari appeared in my hallway. I had no idea how long she'd been there, but nor how she'd gotten in. I know she still had her heels on, though. It's you. I stood up, and Sachiko was, as always, waiting in the wing behind me. I came back out with the Ever After stones, used them in mid-air while I was falling down the bell tower. Heavenly House is totally destroyed, though, so these are just plain ordinary stones now. To demonstrate, Magari snapped the two together. Nirvana, I summoned the dead. See? I probably flinched, but she was right. Nothing happened. Within the next few hours, this world will be totally blanketed in chaos. It's going to be the new land of the dead. Sucks, huh? This is seriously the cataclysm. And to top it off, that's my order on TV there. Fucking shameless, aren't they? Even I've got to draw the line at that point. She pulled back her chin and flashed me a strained smile. Oh, yeah, your parents went crazy and joined, so you know. This day couldn't have been much worse for me. Are you okay leaving things like this, then? Magari wasn't menacing words, it seemed. I held my head in both hands and looked down at the ground. If you feel responsible, come with me for a bit. I have something to discuss with you about your bloodline. Magari approached me and grabbed my arm. Sachiko, still right behind me, began to growl like a guard dog. Get your hands off me. I can't even save my friends. I can't do anything. I don't know what the hell difference the blood of Shinozaki is supposed to make, but I'm just Ayumi, and Ayumi's worthless. Besides, the person who first introduced the Nirvana to this world was Yoshie, not me. I screamed as loudly and as fiercely as I could. I didn't do anything wrong. I closed my eyes and cried the hardest I've ever cried, sobbing so intensely that I found myself nearly hyperventilating. Marguerite slapped me down to the ground. You're one stubborn bitch, you know that? Got one hell of an ego, too. For once in your life, just suck it up. I held my cheek and continued sobbing. Marguerite was looking down on me with contempt in her eyes, but also a certain intensity that seemed more akin to desperation than anything. Ayumi Shinozaki, here's one fact you should know. Once the seventh pillar, the Sephiroth of knowledge, starts up, it's all over. The end of the world is carved in stone, however. Marguerite closed in on me as our lips were about to touch. Sachiko growled again, but Marguerite was clearly not intimidated in the slightest. The Book of Shadows isn't gone yet. What? You came in contact with the original book, so since you draw the blood of the Shinozaki, you may yet be able to fight Misuto. I was still hesitating. Marguerite apparently didn't much like that. God, just come the fuck on. Suddenly, Marguerite was pulling up the top of my uniform. My plump, white stomach was now fully exposed. That piece of shit book is right here. She pointed to the spot just below my belly button. What? As she did so, my stomach started growling with an unearthly roar and shifted in place slightly. It was almost like there was a snake slithering around my inside of me. Sure would have been nice if you'd noticed that a little sooner. The thing's been sleeping inside you since you first used its power in the basement of Yoshie Shinozaki estate. Marguerite crossed her arms and snorted. Of course, it's only a container. Nothing's in it right now. Growling like a cocky bastard. The growl that came from within my own body sounded like that of the wild beast. There's no way. Is this for real? I was actually tricked pretty good. Originally, the Elder sent me to support you in your efforts to obtain the Book of Shadows from that other realm, among other things. Okay. But of course, that still means I was planning on stealing it from you as soon as you got your hands on it. Now, though, that doesn't matter. If I was going to pot, there's not really any meaning in becoming the heir to the Martubas anymore, is there? And that just fucking sucks. Huh? It's all going back to Misuto. Misuto. If that little fucker thinks he's won this war, he's got nothing coming. Don't you just want to slaughter him like a pig right now? You should stop being such a pussy and look at all the things you're capable of. There'll be time enough to abandon all your potential after you're dead. My eyes began to well up again. Are you saying there's still something I can do? Marguerite's expression turned deathly serious. Do whatever you can to bring that Book of Shadows out of your body and gain control over it. If the book recognizes your determination, it should extract itself naturally. And if you have power of the book in your disposal, it'll lead the way right back into Masuto's nirvana. I could only stare incredulously at my abdomen. Marguerite took this opportunity to open my front door, again to illustrate her point. Outside, the weather was still completely anomalous, with hurricane-like winds and debris clouds everywhere. The clouds up above, too, were moving abnormally fast through a disconcerting blood-red sky. Every few seconds, a sound unlike a spark plug firing could be heard, echoing from the distance of another black flame, igniting and burned itself in the same random spot. My foot is going numb. I mean, you're going to lie and die in this world either way, so why have you got to lose? Show me how tough you are while you still got the chance. Just remember, the book was born from black magic. It adores cruelty and blood. With those parting words, Marguerite disappeared into the city, the sounds of her heels clacking softer and softer until they were no longer audible at all. Sachiko and I could do nothing but stare her off. The entire nation was now plagued with entity walls and black silhouette-like spirits of the dead. The entity walls were rapidly destroying schools, downtown bypasses, and other crucial traffic cornerstones, and even rescue shelters, creating countless new casualties by the minute. People were running in the streets, panicked and confused, and almost certainly not much longer for this earth. Where are we supposed to go? It doesn't matter, just run, you'll be crushed. What about overseas? How are you going to get there with the sky and ocean both screwed up? Meanwhile, in Miss Kuon's office, black-suited agents watched in horror as each TV monitor displayed a feed from a different news network across the world, and the story was exactly the same as all of them. Boss, what are we supposed to do? How is a book supposed to recognize my determination? What the hell am I supposed to do? Cut it out. Sis, give me strength. I might have been right. In front of the mirror, dresser sat Hinoue's zodiac dagger. I gripped it in terror, closed my eyes, and started shaking. Do whatever you can to bring the Book of Shadows out of your body and gain control over it. Just remember, the book was born from black magic. It adores cruelty and blood. couldn't back down now. I lifted the dagger in front of me, poised to plunge into my body, and carved myself open like samurai once did in the ritualistic suicide called seppuku. But I couldn't go through with it. It was too scared of death, too scared of pain. I can't. The face that reflected back at me in the mirror was twisted with fear. I didn't even recognize myself. But I could see in those eyes all the weight that had been put on my shoulders, all the responsibility I had been forced to bear. I'm a coward. I'm small and weak. The world doesn't need me. I won't be missed. But I can make a difference, here and now. My mind was made up. I lifted the dagger again. I wanted to bring it halfway to the destination before halting its descent once more. No matter how determined I was, no matter how strong my conviction, this was literally suicide. I knew what had to be done, but knowing and accepting are two different things. I began crying like a baby. This was the most afraid I'd ever been in my entire life. Well, you're stupid then. And almost certainly the most afraid I'd ever would be. At this point, the only way I'd be able to go through with it was to clear my mind and let my arms make the motion automatically. And before I knew it, that's exactly what I did. It's most likely because I wasn't thinking about it or anything else for the moment. The dagger found absolutely no resistance. It was like applying excess force to a slice of cake. For a very brief moment, I felt nothing, but then the convulsion started. First in my abdomen, then quickly spreading up to the rest of my body. My abdomen was now spasming and constricting involuntarily. And the rest of me wasn't faring much better. My entire body was in total chaos. The extent of the agony I felt at that moment was absolutely impossible to convey. It was all-encompassing. It was utterly incapable of focusing on anything else. My lower body was spewing bright red blood, thick black blood, and an unknown yellow substance, all of which was blending together into a slurry that was, at its core, my life essence. This went far beyond anything I could have ever imagined. The sheer shock of it rendered my mind a jumble that I simply could not untangle. I knew there was a reason I'd done this to myself. Something absolutely had to do. It was crucial, but regarding enough cognitive function to do it would be a challenge. I can't do this. To cut across it yet. To remove the book, there's no way. My head was swimming as I tried beyond all reasonable measure to hang on to consciousness just long enough to complete the task at hand. I could see my face in the mirror, but only just the blood that had been spurting from my abdomen had largely glazed it over. It was a truly frightful sight, comparable to, if not more disturbing, anything I'd seen in Heavenly Host. I can't do it. I felt feeble, helpless, and the face in the mirror was smiling at me for it, darkly, obscenely. You can't do it. Jet black crows flew by outside the window. In that moment, a fire sparked me. Feeling oddly resolute, I gripped the dagger jutting out from my abdomen. And yanked it to the side with every last bit of strength I had left in me. The spray of blood gushing out of me became almost exponentially more violent. Most surprisingly, it seemed like equal amounts of blood were rushing to my brain as well, and the effect was feeling like the blood vessels in my head were on the verge of bursting. But just as I felt like I was moments from the final blackout, I saw something. There, among my own entrails on the ground, was a blood-drenched tome. It was the Book of Shadows, without question. My vision blurred from the intense loss of blood and even more intense pain. Iris, I fell forward, unable to maintain any semblance of balance any longer. And I landed right on it, with a loud, warm, and unpleasant splash, my face planted firmly onto the book, which was steaming under the cold temperature differentials of my viscera. I woke with a start. I was still in Hinoe's room. Instinctively and finally, I looked down at my abdomen. There I saw scars resembling ones I've almost died from during the blowback of Yoshio Shinozaki's house, runic lettering and all, but that was it. The bleeding had stopped. In fact, there was no blood anywhere in the room, and on the floor in front of me sat the Book of Shadows, not a copy, but the original. This is... I slowly touched it. And from behind me, Sachiko spoke. The book has acknowledged you as its owner. She was staring at me with a docile, almost reverent look in her eyes. I picked up the book and looked at it, fear and awe running through my now cleared head. It grumbled a bit, darting its eyes back and forth. Eventually, it seemed to settle on a specific direction, locking its gaze. It seemed to be looking out the window. What is that? Most likely the entrance to the Nirvana. Wait, Kisaragi Academy is in that direction. Dad, Mom, thank goodness, I was worried sick about... The world has ended. The world has ended. Dad? Mom? Dad, Mom had just repeat the same line over in broken tape recorder. Dad, Mom. Going out now could be a terrible idea. I'll be back for you, I swear. Oh. I'm gonna, if I can, I'm gonna skip it. Okay. Because, yeah, I don't really want to watch that again. Sachiko, I can't believe I'm saying this, but having at my side is kind of reassuring. Sachiko looked at me with sweet, innocent eyes. When I arrived at Kisaragi Academy, I got a much better look at the phenomenon. It was like a whirlpool with a red, dolly shining hole in its center. Was this the entrance to the afterlife? Beyond that is the nirvana. Kinetic magic, like how witches fly, no way. I closed my eyes, clasped the Book of Shadows lightly in both hands, and prayed. Book of Shadows, lend me strength. When I opened my eyes again and looked up the sky, my body began to float. I was in control of the Book of Shadows. I was a legitimate practitioner of magic now. This moment felt almost like an awakening to endless possibilities. I'm actually flying, wow. Right next to me, flying by my side, was Sachiko. Ayumi? Huh? The moment loss of focus dropped me out of trance, and I immediately began falling. I gripped the book even tighter and concentrated harder than before, and sure enough, I began rising up towards the vortex once more. Be careful, Ayumi. It's the book that's allowing you to use these powers. You mustn't let go of it. Understood. As it flew high, I could see Magari sitting on the roof of the school. It's like you managed to gain control for the Book of Shadows after all. I underestimated you, Ayumi Shinozaki. You even installed an elevator from Kisaragi Academy right up to the Nirvana. Not too shabby. There's one more thing you should probably know, though. The Nirvana's encroachment upon and direct connection to this world isn't really your fault at all. The very moment the Heavenly Host Nirvana first appeared in this world. No, even farther back, at the moment when the Book of Shadows was first created, the coming of this apocalypse was basically an inevitability. I looked into Magari's face. She was being completely sincere. The former owners of that book, including Yoshiya Shinozaki, all tried desperately to stop it, or at least slow it down. And when they learned they couldn't, they left that fate to the next generation instead. That's why the book continued to be handed down through the ages. I see. What that means is, this all would have happened anyway, with or without you. Save for one thing, your action resulted in the power of the Nirvana being handed over to Misuto, the surviving member of the fucked up Yogura cult, and you need to take responsibility for that. Responsibility. You have the real Book of Shadows, but all the power of the Nirvana broken up and distributed throughout Heavenly Hosts has been absorbed by Misuto's fake book. If you can get it back and seal it in that one, though, you can easily outclass him. And if you can go one step further, taking in the Nirvana's core, then the book will be complete. Now is the time to strike. Go on in there and fuck him up. Before the world's end, let him see the real power tastes like I'll be watching. Magari grew smaller as I climbed higher and higher, and as I looked up, I could see the threshold looming ever larger, poised as if to wrap itself around me. Ayumi? Are you scared? Are you scared of dying? I don't know, am I? I smiled at her, and to my surprise, it was a genuine smile. Somehow or another, I was feeling very calm. Sachiko looked at me with wide eyes. What's wrong? She turned away briefly, then looked at me once more. It almost seemed like, in that brief moment, she changed expression, in much the same way someone would change suit. Ayumi, what you should be scared of is Sachi, and the person in the Nirvana's core. Don't let your guard down. The person in the Nirvana's core, isn't Masuto? There's someone else. I looked back up to find myself practically right on top of the hole in the sky that stood in front of the abnormally huge red moon. Caesars, and with my conviction settled, I jumped in. The harsh flash of the nausea and the wrenching tightness in my chest caused me to lose consciousness for a few seconds, but then I awoke to find that heaven and earth had switched places. It looked as though I were falling headfirst into the massive storm, with flashing lightning and roaring thunder. It almost seemed like I was previewing what the world would look like after its destruction. In the sky there was an enormous face of a doll, and the walls around me were all made of flesh. I clenched the Book of Shadows with both hands as I slowly made my landing in the new version of the Nirvana. It was a mountain of rubble. What is this? Everything's broken to bits. Ow, what the hell? Ayumi, are you okay? Yeah, I can handle this much at least. I slowly, carefully found my footing and pulled myself back up to my feet. This was an entirely different Heavenly Host. It bore almost no resemblance whatsoever to any version of the school we'd traveled previously. Heavenly Host Elementary turned into this. Where are the others? Mochida, Nakashima, Kishinuma, Miss Kuo, and Aiko. Well, one lost their head. I'm pretty sure she's gone. Called out to my friends, but received no answer. All I could hear was the rumbling and twisting of the air around me. Oh, there's Sachiko. Oh, there's your friends. Kazuki Munokata, crushed by a piece of school. There was no mistaking it. In the midst of the wreckage, pieces of clothing from Kishinuma, Mochida, Nakashima, Miss Kuon, and Aiko were clearly visible. The unfortunate souls who were wearing this clothes were all buried under fallen beams and other debris and surrounded by a veritable sea of blood. Knelt down and began sobbing uncontrollably. You guys! Yasudo, show yourself! What have you done? What you've done is unforgivable! Sachiko stared at me as I continued to scream and cry. Ayumi? What is it, Sachiko? I'll see what I can do. I can try to restore Heavenly Host Elementary's destiny. At least some small part of it. What? Sachiko produced a calavera necklace from her pocket. The skeletal figure in the chain made a slight hollow clink sound as it was handled, very much an actual bone wood. It looked handmade and seemed oddly warm like a keepsake. What is that? I had this weird feeling that I'd seen this object somewhere before. I swear that looks familiar, but from where? Though she was looking down at the ground a bit, slightly guilty and slightly guarded, Sachiko giggled slightly. This is my treasure. A big smile crept across her lips, and for a moment she looked every bit a part of an ordinary little girl. Huh? I was confused. Sachiko placed her hand on the Book of Shadows. Fact loop. And the book spoke. Repeat the same day. Followed by Sachiko. Suddenly I was in Yoshie Shinazaki's clinic. The very same clinic Yakushima and I had visited on that day, fateful day. This person is Yoshie. I was viewing Sachiko's memory of an event from long ago. Yoshie was writing something on her journal. Analyzed, tested, there was no success rate, blah blah blah, you've read this part. First of all, it seems to become trapped in the dimension or erased from existence in our world. Sachiko came into the room from the back. Her eyes met with Yoshie and she smiled. However, since I was able to express the stray Nirvana, Sachiko stood obediently by her mother, wearing the white dress we'd seen her in Heavenly Host. Yoshie patted her on the head approvingly. Sachiko then coughed out a fine black mist, but sucked it back into her mouth like a carp. I could at least rescue one person's existence from that shadowy, forgotten fate. The face of the image was blacked out, like those of Sachiko and the others, however. To my surprise, the black marking was slowly peeling itself away, revealing the features underneath. My vision slowly cleared, and when it did, amidst all the rumbling and shaking, I found myself back at Heavenly Host Elementary. Oh! Then promptly Sachiko collapsed to the ground. Sachiko! Without thinking, I picked her up and held her limp, light body in my arms. She must have used up her spirit energy, as she was clearly drained. She was breathing, but only very lightly. I don't know why she was breathing to begin with. She's dead. Poor girl seems to be in pain. Wait, am I actually holding Sachiko? Sachiko is real. She had to have been, or I wouldn't have been able to hold her onto her like this. She seemed injured, but not in a traditional manner. There were cracks running through her body, each one emanating an unearthly blue, almost gaseous light. Meanwhile, the school itself was also cracking and breaking all around me, making an incredible noise. The roof above began to crumble away, providing glimpses of the real world. And incredibly, the entity walls hadn't spawned there yet. We're back. This is before everyone died. Sachiko, hang in there. Ayumi, I'm sorry I couldn't revert more time. No, Sachiko, thank you. This was amazing. You did great. I could hardly believe it. I just complimented Sachiko of all people on a job well done. You're praising me? Her newly formed physical body was rapidly beginning to evaporate into mist. My voice was trembling, though I suspect it was less fear and more with confusion. Yes, that was incredible. You're a good girl, Sachiko. She looked up in the sky, eyes beginning to well with tears. She was struggling to speak. Soon she wouldn't be able to at all. I wanted to apologize. What? She barely had any voice left, but was preserving nonetheless. This was clearly something she didn't want to leave unsaid, no matter what. I know you can never forgive me, but I wanted to apologize anyway. And with that, she began full-on crying. Sachiko! I couldn't help doing the same. I killed a lot of people. I'm not a good girl. You shouldn't praise someone like me. The tears were streaming down my face now. Sachiko's voice was so mournful, so genuine. But she just saved a lot of people now, too, so thank you. A massive earthquake shook the ground. Sachiko looked scared, so I patted her head and hugged her tightly. She then looked me squarely in the eye, gripping her calaver necklace tightly in her hand as if it were a rosary. It's strange, isn't it? What is? Once you know you did right, passing on isn't so scary anymore. Sachiko! Sachiko and the blue light alike both disappeared completely. She was gone. The being I was hugging just moments ago no longer existed. All I could do was clench my fist and mourn. The look on Sachiko's face when she asked if I was scared of dying kept flashing through my head. Sachiko, you were the one who was scared, weren't you? I kept my head hung low for a few minutes and stood up and wiped the tears from my eyes. Accompanying the sound of the rumbling, one single entity wall now stood in the real world. The cycle was beginning anew. Watch over me, Sachiko. One Shinozaki or another. To another. Get the door. Nice and slow. Uh-oh. Praise, good girl. Unfair, Sachiko. To be continued. Oh, I think I've got one chapter left before the end. Let's see. Sachiko Shinozaki have been unlocked. PvP entries for Sakutaru Marashige have been unlocked. Soulful Testimony from Ikue Ontani has been unlocked. New Akasaku Obscura entries have been unlocked. Cover Dar, Sachiko's family photo, Sachiko Shinozaki. Yoshie Shinozaki Fact Loop. Next chapter 5 had been unlocked. Alright.